Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to Divas Den on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, Madeline Ward Freeman, aka Boss Lady, and I have my beautiful co-host, Vicky Travis Wood, CEO and founders of Divas Inc., the Diva. And yes, I want to apologize for us being on the air late. It seems like our tech had a about last night, so he was
A
moving.
real about last night.
I know I had a good time last night, but he must have had a good time last night because he wasn't ready for us this morning. I guess he thought we were gonna be on Color Folks time, but not today. Today we are going to talk about preparing for your transition. I know people don't want to talk about it, but it's real. We all got to go one day. So we want to talk about how to prepare as best as you can for your transition. And we're going to have a guest, the second part of our show. His name is Finest Alexander with Leak and Sons, and he's been in the industry for 18 years. So before we go into that, we're going to talk about what Divas Inc. has going on. We're going to talk about this election. What about this upset? It was some people that were mad and wanted to get rid of Anita Alvarez, and that happened.
She gone.
She is gone. So those people that was on the front line outside of City Hall, Daily Center, out in the streets protesting at her door, you know, good job. Good job. Sometimes, people may be in office for many years, but there is sometimes time for change. And I think it's about
Change is
that time.
good.
And congratulations to Kim Fox. So, congratulations. And you know what? I think it's going to be a better year.
You think so?
Yeah, I do think so. And as far as for the presidential candidates, we have Hillary and Trump. But I also want to let you guys know because the diva, she had some issues when she went to go and vote. So you have a little time to figure out where's your new polling places because sometimes they do change the polling places on you. So
and you will not know.
yeah, so please make sure that you double check that. The other thing is too, 17-year-olds who will be 18 by November
Can vote.
So let's get them all taken care of. Those that are becoming 18 years old, make sure that they go to the polling place. Make sure you get up and go to the polling place. You can actually go online and check as well as to where you are registered to vote if you do not remember.
And remember this, your vote does count. Whether you vote or not, it does count. And if you don't want a circus, and you don't want to be part of the circus, and you don't want to be living in a circus type world, make your vote count.
Yes. So we're going to have the diva let you know what's going on in our world before we talk about preparing for your transition.
Well, as you know, Divas Inc. does an annual Pretty in Pink breast cancer aware affair. And say the date because it's coming soon, October 29th, which is a Saturday. It will be held at the Crystal Sky Banquet Hall located at 7941 West 47th Street in McCook, Illinois, from 5 p.m. until 10:30. Tickets are going on sale soon, so come out and help celebrate life. Now, this year we're going to be doing a whole bunch of different things. Every year is different.
Yes.
It gets bigger and better. Last year we had over 150 people. This year I'm pushing for 200 people.
Okay.
So we need to celebrate.
Yes.
And you need to buy your tickets when they go on sale. Today we will host our monthly workshop from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Charles M. Hughes Community Center. And the topic today is how to be a go-getter. Life after high school, the college life. Our discussion will be on the difference between a job and a career, qualifications and education training necessary for your desired career, deciding whether college is right for you, admissions process, ways to finance college, identify an educational institution and majors that fit. So if you have a high school student or if you're a college student, you need to come out and get this information.
Yes, I encourage you to. One of the things that I see a lot of, because I interview people, I talk to a lot of young people, and they're not prepared for that next level or that next step, or no one has shared with them exactly how to prepare themselves for a career or for the job, or whether or not they should go to college or not. So I see it quite often, especially if I have someone that comes in interview with me and they hoops are so big that they can barely
and that's all you concentrating on is they big hoops
and the gum chewing. I mean, so when people have these free sessions like we do, Divas Inc., and there's other organizations out here as well, have free training for you, where there's professionals who have been in their jobs for years or have done training or teaching. Take advantage of it, people. Really, take advantage.
Take advantage of it.
So, anything else you want to share with the people today before I go into preparing for your transition?
Wait, that didn't even sound right. Who have you been talking to? You just done messed this whole thing up. Hey, God is not ready for me yet.
Well, one thing I'm going to say, I want to really keep this light today. I know some people, when we posted on Facebook, like, here they go again, talking about some foolishness. No, it is not foolishness. Unfortunately, within the last 3 years, I had to bury my mother and my sister. The good thing is that they were women who were prepared and was about their business. Now, there were some things that I want to touch on, actually, so I can help educate you on what took place with my sister, because I think that some people need to know who don't know. So in regards to when my mother passed, she had her paperwork in order. It was just, she had her insurance policy. Everything was good. We was able to, handle that.
Same here with my mom. Everything was executed in a timely fashion. No slip ups, no miss ups, no mishaps, and she just kept everything in order.
With my sister, who left us at the age of 43, and I'm sure she didn't think about it at the time. She was single, and her kids were, when she started her job, she worked for Nordstrom's, and she started her job about 11 years ago with Nordstrom. So at the time, her children that she had was much younger. So there was a lot of things that she had as far as beneficiary information was in my mother's name. So she had insurance policy through the job and things of that sort. So trying to go through the red tape to get the financial part of things done, she had it in order, but the problem is the fact that my mother's name was still on the paperwork. Some things that we had to do, and it took time to get it done, and it's still taking time to get certain things done. So the first thing I want to tell you is make sure that you go to your HR department, double check if you've been on your job for years and you had any changes, whether it was a divorce, the person that you had as beneficiaries is no longer living. Make sure your paperwork is up to date and current. Addresses, everything. It is so important. The other thing I want to touch on is checking accounts. When you go to the bank and you open up bank accounts and savings accounts and things of that sort, they don't ask. Some of the banks do not ask you who your beneficiaries or if there's anybody else's name is going to be on that checking account. So that's another thing. You can add beneficiaries to your checking and savings account. So if something happened, one of your children, your spouse, or whoever can go and close out things and get things in order or withdraw money if need be. So those are two things that definitely you should ensure that is good. And also getting an insurance policy. You can also check with your jobs. Some of the jobs or your employer have insurance policies on you, or you can get insurance through your job. So that's another thing that you can talk to your HR team about. Yes.
I'm waiting till you finish.
Okay. Oh, the diva has something to say. But those are some of the things that you really should look into that you may not have thought about. And what would you like to share, the diva?
Can I? Thank you very much. You're talking about people that already have stuff in process. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people out there who don't have anything. Mm-hmm. And it's very important that you get some type of insurance. Because we're going to clear the myth up in our second part that you cannot be buried in a box. You cannot be buried in your backyard. We can't do a family cremation in the backyard. None of that. You can't do that. All that stuff is illegal. And there are myths where people will just say, "Hey, put me in a box." You can't do that. You really have to sit down and calculate the amount of insurance that you need. Mm-hmm. First of all, you need to know how much a funeral service is going to cost. And right now, the average is between $5,000 to $8,000, and that's a basic funeral cost. Mm-hmm. So I done did my research.
I know you have.
I am. I'm gonna leave just enough money to hold a service.
On that note, we are going to go to break so we can bring our guests. Thank you for tuning in to Divas Den on IntellectualRadio.com, where we have over 40 hosts and an iHeartRadio station. I am the boss lady.
And I am your diva.
And we will be back with Mr. Finest Alexander with Leak & Sons to share with us how to prepare for your transition. And welcome back to Divas Den on IntellectualRadio.com, where we have over 40 hosts and an iHeartRadio station. I am the boss lady, and I have the diva, and plus our guest speaker, Leak & Sons, Mr. Finest Alexander. Welcome. He has been in this industry for 18 years, and we're talking today about preparing for your transition. I know sometimes this is a hard topic to talk about, and sometimes people can even be selfish and say, well, dead, so it don't matter how I'm buried or who's left with what, but we have to be mindful of our family members who is left behind to bury you or lay you to rest or prepare your home going, whichever one you want to call it, but we all have to go this way.
Mr. Finest, before we get started, I like that the way that sound, Mr. Finest. I like that. I want to clear up a couple of the myths, and I'm sure you heard them, where people, that when we talk about the transition, people will say, "Oh, just put me in a box, bury me in the backyard." Can you clear this myth up for these people so they can know that this can't happen? That's against the law.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone were to be put in the backyard, very shortly after that, you would find the police and the FBI and everybody else coming to question what was really going on. That is absolutely illegal, and this is very pertinent, this conversation, because death will come to all of us. Mm-hmm. No one gets out of life alive. So we all must prepare for that day when we're going to leave here. And the big part, none of us know
exactly
when that time is going to be. I mean, you can be perfectly healthy, but that time could come for you. So it is an absolute myth that you must have proper burial, because if not, there's some people that will definitely come to talk to you.
So can you tell us your role as the funeral director and the process and the services that Leak and Sons provide the family?
First of all, I'd like to say I'm very proud to be part of the Leak and Sons Funeral Home, which has been in existence for 83 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Under the leadership of the founding family. Reverend A.R. Leak started the funeral home along with his wife, Dottie Leak, in 1933. And in that time, they've helped countless numbers of families. Not all families are prepared for this time. But I'm very proud to say that the Leak Funeral Home, they really go out of their way to assist people and help people in this difficult time.
Right.
Now, as a graduate of Worsham Mortuary College, we are trained in every aspect of funeral service. My particular avenue is that of removals.
Okay.
I am the director that makes the removals once the person has made their transition, be it in the home, hospital, wherever that death has occurred. And it is done in a very dignified way, and we honor the life of that person. Right. And it's not always a nice setting.
Right.
Sometimes the person, they pass in the home in unsettling circumstances. But no matter the circumstance, we still have to go in a professional way to assist the family in removing their loved one.
When a family is not prepared, as you say, in regards to the financial side of things, how at times do you guys try to work it out with them, or what do you suggest being in this situation and seeing families during this time a little distraught and under pressure because they don't have the funds that they need to bury their loved ones?
Well, and again, it's very good what you all were talking about earlier about insurance. We must stress to the communities that people need to take out insurance. It's people think that, well, it's not going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. We have car insurance. Most of us have never had an accident. It's important that we get the word out because, as you know, there are difficulties with the state, whereas the state were paying some funds. With this difficult and the budget not being passed, that's not always available. So sometimes, and again, Mr. Leak, to his credit, he will set up in many cases a payment plan. He will just try to help a family any way possible because no one wants to see their loved one just languishing, and a person has to be buried.
Yes.
There's either the approach of burial or cremation, but whichever approach the deceased has to be taken care of.
When you say cremation, what is the cost of that process?
Now, cremation costs vary per funeral home. So
Okay.
there's not, it can
Or
be anywhere from
estimated cost. Yes, thank you.
$2,500 to $4,000 or $5,000, depending upon where that person goes. Cremation is increasing for several reasons.
Mhm.
One of the reasons is cemetery cost is so very expensive.
Mhm.
I mean, you can go in some cemeteries and have paid the cemetery, but then there's the opening and closing costs, which is an additional cost.
And when you say opening and closing, you mean the
The,
actual opening of the hole
the actual
and
opening
closing of the
hole.
hole and
Yes.
closing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that can be pretty expensive, depending upon the cemetery. But cremation has gone up partly because cemetery costs are very expensive.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and so cremation has gone up. It's not as expensive as burial, and some people just opt to have a cremation
Right.
because they want their ashes placed in a certain place or spread somewhere, or they want them in a particular person's home. So that is a very individual choice, but it is on the increase.
What are your views on pre-planning your funeral? Pre-arranging.
Absolutely a wonderful idea. When you pre-plan your funeral, you take the stress out of the existing or those who will be left behind.
Mhm.
When you pre-plan your funeral, you get exactly what you want.
Okay.
You know, it's customizing your funeral because we're all going to have one day or another. You're customizing your funeral to what you want. I want to be in a certain suit, a certain tie. Then you can stipulate that. You may want a certain color casket. You can stipulate that. And another very important thing with prearranging is that you can pay on that on a monthly basis. And then by the time the transition occurs, it can be paid for,
Or
which
halfway
takes
done.
all of the stress off of the family. And that's the word that we really want to get out. It's very important that you prearrange. Some people are spooked by it. They think
Yes.
if I do this, that means I'm going to die. No, what it means is that you're taking a proactive approach to the inevitable because it's going to happen. I have children. I do not want my children
Mhm.
worrying about how they're going to take care of their dad. As the dad, I should be the leader and take care of those issues, seeing that it will come. And even as I spoke of me being a father, it's important that if you have children, you can also, there are things you just prearrange because
Right.
not that you're anticipating something happening, but in the climate that we're living in,
Mm.
we're hearing climate statistics all the time. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. My other question is, can you walk us through pretty much the whole planning process from the time you do the removal or you are contacted, how pretty much that goes?
Your day.
Okay, my typical day, first of all, I do quite long hours, and the typical day is a call. We call it a first call.
Okay.
It comes in, and that is where the family is on. They're calling the funeral home to inform us of a death. From that, we're going to ascertain certain information: the name of the deceased, the age of the deceased, where the deceased passed away, and then we'll make preparation to get a release signed. You have to have a release
Mhm.
signed because I have to have authorization. You can't just go to a hospital and say, I'm here to pick up
Mhm.
this person.
Yes.
You've got to, and that's when we go into the family's home to meet with them to get a release signed. Then from that release, I call the hospital, if it's a hospital or nursing home, and just see if the loved one is prepared or ready for removal. A person passes today in a hospital, they're not necessarily ready for removal that day because the doctor has to sign the death certificate. So it's a process.
Mhm.
Once the doctor has signed the death certificate, we are then able to go to that facility, the hospital, and make the removal in that case. If the person passes in the home, then that would be what we would call a DOA, which is dead on arrival,
Right.
or hospice. A hospice call is when death has been anticipated,
Mhm.
and the person chooses to pass at their home instead of in a hospital. That's where the hospital nurse comes out on a daily basis to tend to the patient. And once that death occurs, the family calls us. In that case, that's a house call. We then go to the house to make the removal of that loved one. And then we'll follow up with the hospice in terms of the death certificate and all of that. We go to the house, and then the person is brought back to the funeral home. If the authorization for embalming has been signed, that means they're going to have a funeral with viewing. Then we prepare the person through the embalming process for their funeral. And the goal is to make the person look as much like they did in life as they now are in death.
And the funeral home also have companies that they work with, like for you want flowers. Absolutely. And obituaries, yes, if you choose to. Okay, so
and at Leak Funeral Home, all of that is on site.
Okay.
We have a florist on site that once the family has come and done their arrangement, they can then go to the florist. And also on site is the printer. So this gives peace of mind to the family as well, because they don't have to travel in various directions.
One-stop shop right there.
Right, one-stop shop, and you can go there and take care of all of your needs for the most part.
That's great. That's great. The Diva, is there anything that you want to share with us about the information that you have found?
You know, the thing is, as I was going through my research and looking at the various prices, the average cost, I Googled the average cost of a funeral service. Pretty much $10,000 to $12,000 if you want them put away nicely. So meaning that you need more than a $3,000 insurance policy. You need more than a $5,000 insurance policy. You know, I have to be careful what I want to say, because I don't want to offend anyone. But I'm just gonna say it. If you can stand in line for a pair of $300 to $400 Jordans, you should be able to take that money and pay for your child insurance policy.
Yes, I agree.
This has happened over and over and over and over and over again, where I've seen parents who their child is well dressed, extremely dressed, designer head to toe. But then if something happens to that child, they have to do a GoFundMe, or they gotta come to Lincoln's Son and try to make arrangements, or Lincoln's Son would actually do the funeral. It don't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me, because people they just need to get their minds right. And this is something that it should be a priority, because when I was born, a couple days later, I had insurance. My mother had insurance on me. I still have that insurance.
And that's something I think we were taught and raised to kind of have your business in order. But it's important. And it was so eye-opening for me, even some of the things like, I didn't even think about that, my checking account or my savings account, because they didn't ask me, and I didn't think to add a beneficiary. But sure, after I learned about it, I was at the bank a couple of days later, just putting some things in order, also sharing with your family members what you have going on. Sometimes people are so secretive about what's going on. Having a family meeting and talking about, if there's any illness that's going on in your family, don't hide those kind of things. Like, prepare yourself, prepare your family, even making a listing of where everything is. Like, what insurance company?
Where's your policy?
What's the policy number? Having that kind of thing in order, and telling or your kid or to your husband exactly where that information is, making sure that you have a will. You can do a will yourself, or you can have an attorney do it for you at a small cost, but you can have a will written up yourself and notarized. So think about those things and helping to prepare yourself and prepare your family, so it's not as stressful as Mr. Alexander has shared with us as well.
And like you said, a lot of people are really confidential about that, but designate one person. Have one person to have, here's an envelope. And that's what I'm preparing now. I'm going to designate one person. Here is a list of the policies and their numbers. This is what I want. This is what color I want. This is how I want my hair. This is what color lipstick I want. This is how I want my service to go. Yeah, this is how I want my service to flow.
Okay.
And that's very important. As you were talking about people standing in line, priority is so important.
Mm-hmm.
The priority of getting a pair of gym shoes that cost hundreds of dollars is different. I am 53 and I've never spent, I don't think, over $30 for a pair of gym shoes. But it's very important. Those pair of gym shoes will wear out. They're going to get dirty. But that insurance policy that you set forth to protect yourself and your family will be a very good benefit for everyone.
What happens if a person has insurance and the family is unaware? Is there a system or something that
becomes, and that becomes that secrecy? Someone needs to have that information. If not, if no one knows there's a policy, that means that they're scrounging to come up with funds where it could be so easy. A lot of times our older seniors will not divulge information because a lot of our seniors, like my mother's 83, a lot of our seniors back in the day, they didn't believe in banks. I mean, they hid money in the house.
Yes.
It would be my dream to go to some of those southern houses and just maybe knock on some of those doors, and I hit something,
and the money just
money falls out.
Right.
Or back in the day, they hid money under a tree or something. So I have this dream. I'm going to go somewhere in the South, and I'm going to go around a big tree, and there's going to be some money. But that doesn't exist today.
Right.
It needs to be stipulated. And I understand people have a hesitancy about that because you don't want the wrong person to get that information and go clean out your account. But we all have someone in our family that we can trust.
Yes.
And then they will follow our wishes as much as possible.
Great. Well, I know you have to leave, so I really appreciate you coming in and sharing this information. Mr. Finest Alexander from Leaks and Sons. Very helpful information, and I hope our listeners have learned something
and take some heed to what has been said.
Yeah, so we are going to take a break. Thank you for tuning in to Divas Den on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, the Boss Lady.
And I am your co-host, the Diva.
And we will be right back. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Divas Den on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, the boss lady, and we have the diva in house. We were just
The diva is
talking.
always in house. What do you mean? What do you mean?
We were just talking about preparing for your transition, and we had our guest speaker was Finest Alexander for Leak and Sons, and he shared some very valuable information.
Yes, he did.
He talked about pre-planning, how important it is, and how you can pre-plan
I
your
think you
own
should
funeral
pre-plan your funeral.
service so
Look at me when I'm
that
talking to you. You should pre-plan your seriously pre-plan your funeral. That way you can have me execute it exactly the way that you want it. Because I know you, and I know you like things in order. So when you gonna get that list to me?
okay, first of all, who said I'm going before you?
You
So
just tried to put me away. So
yes, we try to keep this a little light, but on a serious note, if you can pre-plan your funeral and pay it on a monthly basis, do so. Less stress for the family. Your loved ones is going to be grieving at that time, and it is a difficult time. I personally can tell you it is very difficult trying to keep yourself together because you have lost a loved one, and then trying to make sure that you have everything in order to bury them in a very respectful way, and how you think they may want to be buried or laid to rest, from the clothing, from the hair, from the flowers, from the where they want to be buried, if it has not been a discussion amongst you. So it is a difficult time. I encourage you to plan as best you can. Get a will, make sure your beneficiaries are straight on your insurance policies, your information at your employer, especially if you've been there a long time and you have not reviewed it and changed the information that needs to be changed. If you have been through a divorce, making sure that your policies are up to date. If you have been separated from your husband or wife and you have not gotten a divorce
who's in charge?
legally,
Who's in charge?
okay?
Then?
So there are some people who have been divorced 20 years.
And who's in charge?
And I'm going to tell you this story. One of my co-workers from way back when was separated from her husband. They were separated for like 20 years. He passed away, and it became a mess with his mother and her over the financials. And the thing is, the mother could not do anything because legally they were still married. So, or think of it this way: if you become ill, you're on life support, and that ex-husband or that ex-wife, your family does not want them to pull the plug, but they decide to. So there are so many things to really think about. It's important to have your paper in order, your affairs in order. Understand priorities and get your priorities in order. The diva?
Yes, have your priorities set, but also you you can say all that you want to do, but just make sure that the finance is there. As that is the most heaviest burden that a family could carry at a time of death is financial. Because now, as it was said before, now everybody's got to scramble because we didn't cover this, but there's only a certain amount of days that this body can be sitting up. So everything is a process, and everything has a timeline to it when a person dies. My advice would be to, if you're just sitting around, Google preparing for your transition, and it will give you step by step on the things that should occur and things that you should do. Seriously.
And look into the insurance insurance agency, someone that you can trust if you don't know of any. Prime America is one that I do know of. There are others out there. Ask a family member, ask a friend. You can Google it as well.
United
And
Insurance in
Mhm.
Hillside. Google. The internet has everything. Google it.
Can you tell the people how to reach us if they want any information or need any information from us?
You don't know how. But I will tell them. You can reach us at 1-855-462-3462. 1-855-462-3482.
What about our email address?
What is it?
Go ahead.
Oh my God.
I know it.
Okay.
I was telling
Of course I know it. I'm
the
the CEO. I know it. Divas at divasinc.org.
Okay, thank
And
you.
visit our website.
Thank you. And also our Facebook pages. We have
I don't know what
we
is
have
it.
Divas Inc. And we also have Divas Den. Or you can also go onto our personal Facebook pages, Madeline Ward Freeman, Vicki Travis Woods, and you can inbox us if you need to. That would be wonderful. We can share information with you. We are open to sharing information, but let's get our priorities in order. Prepare for your transition and then set things in a particular order. Write it out, put it on paper, advise that loved one that you trust, share the insurance policies, the insurance policy numbers. If you have checking accounts that you bank at a particular place, even your debt, those type of things. If you have worked at different companies, you have different 401k plans.
Different pensions.
If you need to transfer those things as well, look into all of that. Some of us have worked several jobs, and you'll be surprised. Some years back, I had found out that I had a 401k plan with a company who said I didn't have it, but they did, but I still had one, and I knew I had one. Eventually I got it. But check your previous jobs too that you have worked at regarding 401k, if you have stocks and bonds. So there is a lot of information your family members may have, but have that discussion. Exactly. Don't feel afraid to talk about it. Because you talk about it today don't mean that you're going to die tomorrow. I mean, none of us know the day, the time, or the hour, but be prepared. Less stress. Do you agree, right?
Yes, I'm calling a family meeting as soon as we leave here.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, thank you for tuning in to Divas Den on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, the boss lady, and I have the diva. And know that we have everything for you on Intellectual Radio. We have over 40 hosts, and we also are iHeart Radio station. What we gonna do? We gonna
Feed our brain
and get our minds right. You have a great day.